Original sin is just one aspect of how people are impacted by the fall of Adam and Eve. A second is that of imputed sin. Though related to the concept of original sin, imputed sin is a distinct category that has different ramifications. Original sin describes how everyone is sinful from birth. We're not blank slates. We all inherit a sinful nature. It is transmitted generationally, passed from father to son at birth. Imputed sin, on the other hand, teaches that everyone shares Adam's guilt. Even if we did not have sinful natures, we would still need to answer to God as sinners because of our association with Adam. Rather than being transmitted generationally, imputed sin is passed directly from Adam to each individual person. The key Bible passage teaching about imputed sin is Romans 5. This is an important passage to understand in any discussion of sin, so we will spend a minute unpacking it here. We'll focus specifically on verses 12 and 18. Therefore, just as sin came into the world through one man, and death through sin, and so death spread to all men because all sinned, therefore as one trespass led to condemnation for all men, so one act of righteousness leads to justification and life for all men. This passage is clear on the fact that all sinned in Adam. All of humanity was somehow involved in what happened in the Garden of Eden. Because of this, all of humanity deserves death. Death spread to all men. Adam's actions sealed the fate of humanity. Most importantly, it teaches that because death came through a single act of sin, so salvation can come through a single act of righteousness. Since it was the sin of one man, Adam, that sealed our fate, so our fate can be undone by the righteousness of one man, Jesus Christ. In other words, it is the doctrine of imputed sin that allows for all of humanity to be forgiven in Jesus Christ. So, how exactly does this work? How can we all be held accountable for the actions of one person? It does not exactly seem fair. There are three main views dealing with this idea. The first of these, the Pelagian View, originated by a monk named Pelagius around AD 400. Pelagius taught that all humans are basically good, but they do have the capacity to choose evil. We all face the same basic choice, good or evil. According to Pelagius, Adam's sin set a bad example for the rest of humanity. Adam was declared guilty for his sin. Moreover, since he was the first man, he set a negative precedent for the rest of us. We all naturally tend to follow him. But importantly, Pelagius taught that we do not actually inherit any guilt from Adam. We still face the choice, even though we might be predisposed to evil. Theoretically, it is possible for humans to earn salvation by living a perfect life since we do not share in Adam's guilt. Obviously, this view has significant problems since it conflicts with other teachings of Scripture. The church condemned this view in AD 431 at the Council of Ephesus. One of Pelagius's most outspoken opponents was St. Augustine, who lived around the same time as Pelagius. Augustine observed that the basic material for the entire human race was in Adam when he sinned. In modern-day terms, we might think of our DNA or the genetic code. We could trace this material all the way back to Adam, our common ancestor. Since we were in this sense physically part of Adam when he sinned, we share in his guilt. Adam contained the basic building blocks for the entire human race, so the entire human race was tainted with his guilt when he sinned. In direct contradiction to Pelagius, Augustine taught that it is not possible not to sin. The final view, known as the federal view, is closely related to the Augustinian view. It was developed by the European reformers much later in the 1600s. They taught that Adam acted as the legal representative of the entire human race. He was our ambassador in a sense. Because he acted on our behalf, we share in his guilt. You might think of this in political terms. When our country does something unpopular, the world often blames us individually because of our association. Even though we might disagree with the actions of our government or our military, we are guilty by association in the eyes of the world. In this sense, Adam represented us just like the federal government represents us today. There is good logic behind both the Augustinian and the federal views, and both are consistent with Scripture. We do not necessarily have to pick one or the other. We can acknowledge the nuggets of truth in each of them. It is very important, however, to distance ourselves from the Pelagian view, which is not supported by Scripture.